When I ended Scum Villain Self-Saving System, I didn't think that there would be any more to say. I didn't think there'd be any more to react to because I was like, I don't think people were like, oh, they're not going to make season 2 of the Donghua. And I was like, well, that sucks. So I guess we're done here. I guess we're just going to pack it up, the curtains over, into the story. No. Actually, to be honest, when was this sent? I got a notification. I believe it was way early this year. Maybe it was even last year. I'm going to go look at it and tell you all right now. It was actually, I had pinned it in the Discord. It was back in November of last year where Pancake, through the Discord of my Patreon, almost a year ago, they were like, hey, there's a creator that is translating the 7 parts to the extras that MXTX has done for Scum Villain Self-Saving System. And I was like, MXTX making new extras for Scum Villain. And so I wanted to wait till it was all translated and all completed. And then as of the end of last year, it was done. And so now it's been waiting patiently for me to react to it. And I've been like, am I ready to go back to Scum Villain? Am I ready to go back? And I finally, you know what? Time heals many wounds. And I've softened on my staunch stance against parts of Scum Villain that I had. I'm still, you know, have my opinions, but I was like, yeah, I think I'm ready. So I put up a poll on Patreon to ask the Patreon members what extras they wanted me to react to this month. And at the end of July, they were like, we want you to get to these Scum Villain extras. And I was like, okay, so here we are. So thank you, Pancake, for sending me the Twitter post that has these chapters included. And thank you over on Twitter to @itsjinvi, ITSJINVI. You can go to their Twitter handle and you can see where they actually uploaded translations of all of this. So thank you for translating, Jen. That is amazing. Y'all doing the Lord's work by getting them translated. So from the new hardcover release. So that's awesome. But yeah, so we're going to be reading this. It's 53 pages online. However that ends up with. I poured coffee. I put some butterbeer cold foam in it, which tastes amazing. So I'm set to go. I was originally going to spike this with some bourbon cream, but homegirl is out of that. It's probably for the better. So we're actually going to be looking at this. I pulled this up here and I'm going to show you all what it looks like. There's a translator's foreword, and then I looked and there are 7 parts. I didn't look at what the titles were because I wanted to be surprised, but I did see that the website itself, it's like 53 pages. I'm like, wow, we've got a lot to get through, and it's late in the evening. So let's get into this. I can't believe we're going back to Scum Villain, but let's do this. So here in 3, 2, 1, we are going to, I'll have a link to all this down below where you can go check this link out and you can actually look at their Twitter. I'll include the Twitter and the Google Doc link in the description for the video so you can check these out in your own time. You can follow along with me, you can read with me, and we'll do that. So Translator's Foreword. Hi. Thank you so much for reading my translation of the new Scum Villain Self-Saving System extras from the Chinese hardcover release. This past week has been so fulfilling. I've poured a lot of love into translating the extras, and all of your kind comments and thoughtful insights on the new content have meant the world to me. There's really no such thing as a perfect translation. I've done my best to bridge the linguistic and cultural gap between English-speaking scummies and the text itself. English-speaking scummies is like, if that's the name of the fandom, I accept that. Sometimes that meant taking small liberties with things like internet slang, memes, or sayings so that they feel natural and alive in English, while still staying true to MXTX's voice. Love that. Hearing that so many of you found it authentic and easy to read honestly makes me so happy. Knowing that the emotions resonated with readers really makes all the efforts worthwhile. I'm not the best with words, haha, but truly, everybody says that when they really are. It's been such a wonderful journey. To those of you who followed along as I worked through the translation, thank you for coming with me, and if you're new here, welcome. I hope you'll enjoy your stay. Honestly, at this point, I feel a little bit like Sheng Qinghua, bound by some translator's holy duty to keep updating every day. Someone stop me before I start making up extras of the extras. Oh my god. But yeah, Jin. November 9th, 2025. P.S. Don't forget to read all the translator notes at the end. Good, great. Facts. I cannot provide the raws. Sorry, I bought the new release myself and translated directly from the physical book. If you'd like to translate my work into another language, please DM me. Nice, and ask for permission first. I won't say no, just ask and make sure to credit me properly. If you want to share my translations on another website, please do so using the Google Docs link. Okay, well, that's what we're going to do then. You're welcome to download the doc for personal reference, but please don't re-upload or share the PDF. Yeah, no, we're going to just include the link. If you quote or screenshot any part of the translation, please include clear credit, translated by, okay, I will definitely include, since I'm going to be having that alongside here, I will include, there'll be a little thing that says translated by to give them credit throughout the video so that you know who it's translated by because they've done all the work. Yeah, no, this is not my own document. They said do not claim or modify the document as your own work. No, it's not mine. Jen translated this from the official release. So there you go. Nice. Awesome. So yeah, special thanks to T_Mune, aka at Yacho, 1340, my friend, for believing I could pull off an amazing translation to the point that she's willing to quit X for 2 weeks to avoid spoilers. Aw, T, keep making great art. That's so nice. Oh, it says I love you, T. That's so cool. Nice. Very nice. Yeah, they were actually updating this on Twitter as it was coming out because I saw their little tweet replies and I was like, So this is called The Homecoming and there are 7 chapters of it. Okay. Homecoming, you say? Well, I guess we'll get into this. So I'm going to skip the chapters and the titles because I won't be surprised as we go. Chapter 1 says, Return to Reality. Is Sheng Qinghua going back? Or Shin Qingqiu going back? I guess we'll see. Let's find out, shall we? Chapter 1, Return to Reality. Of course, you will never find a trashier piece of web junk than Proud Immortal Demon Way. It feels like it's been so long! Whoever likes that kind of garbage, I'll look down on them for life. Their taste is beyond saving. Shin Qingqiu laid on a hospital bed, a frozen smile on his face. He waited patiently as the young intern doctor ranted to his heart's content, gesturing wildly while taking every chance to slack off. Only after the doctor marched out of the room, full of righteous indignation, did Shin Qingqiu finally turn his head expressionless. A miscalculation, he said flatly. Turns out he's a hater of your novel. Look what you've brought upon us. Sheng Qinghua slumped down in despair, looking as though his soul had left his body. He wailed, You're humiliating me! Cucumber bro! How could you just sit there and watch someone humiliate me like that? Shin Qingqiu's temples throbbed in pain. With a sharp tug, he yanked the curtain between their beds close. That's enough! Well, it's a long story, but we'll keep it short. In a nutshell, on some fateful day, Shin Qingqiu and Sheng Qinghua both received a notification from the system. Special notice. God, I missed this! Special notice. The item shop has launched a new Lunar New Year gift pack event. System, in recognition of the host's long-standing exemplary performance, you may exchange 50,000 satisfaction points for 1 homecoming gift pack. This pack allows the host to spend 1 week in their original world. What? Shin Qingqiu was completely stunned. Wait, hold on, he asked. I thought I died in the real world. How am I supposed to go back? And what will happen if I do? Upon verification, the host's physical body in the original world has not died. It is merely in a state of suspended consciousness. What? He wasn't dead? But wait, that didn't make any sense. Food poisoning shouldn't put someone in a coma. Could it be that he'd gone into shock out of sheer rage at Proud Immortal Demon Way? Now that would be a new level of tragic. This gift pack is a limited time offer. Expired items cannot be reissued. Please confirm your redemption immediately. Was there even a need to think about it? Shin Qingqiu and Sheng Qinghua exchanged an agreeing glance. Confirm! Oh my gosh! Already! Oh my god. The plan was simple enough. Purchase first. Examine the terms later. Oh, I don't know how that goes. Oh no. Uh-oh. Once they figured out the details, they'd have a nice, chill conversation with Lo Binghe and Mo Beijun about their planned absence. And lastly, use it to return to the real world. Oh, I'm sure that conversation will go real good. Real good. Unfortunately, a tiny procedural issue occurred. And by tiny, Shin Qingqiu meant catastrophic. Normally, system-issued items came with a confirmation prompt along the lines of, Use item, yes or no. It would only activate when you selected yes. This time, however, the system decided to skip that formality. The moment they redeemed the gift pack, it was activated automatically. That's how they ended up in this utterly unprepared, completely ridiculous situation. After a quick round of investigation, Shin Yan summed up the situation. One piece of extremely good news and one piece of extremely bad news. The extremely good news: time in the real world flowed much slower than Proud Immortal Demon Way. Several years had passed in the books world, but here, only a single day. The extremely bad news: that probably meant if he stayed here for 2 days, decades might pass over there. He didn't even dare to imagine what Lo Binghe would do in the meantime. Still, they were here now, and there was no way to contact that world. Shinyan's head throbbed. Worry gnawed at him, but after a deep breath, he steadied himself. If he couldn't do anything about both worlds, then he'd make sure at least one was secure. He'd never been the type to lose on both fronts. He decided to devote himself fully and completely to his family. After all, that gift pack was a literal blessing from heaven, as fleeting as it may be. Who knew if he'd ever get such a chance again? By sheer luck, airplane shooting towards the sky, his dear colleague Sheng Qinghua happened to be in the same hospital. At least they weren't lost to the vast crowd with no one to conspire with. The moment Shinyan woke up, he wandered out of his VIP ward. Oh, they're going to see each other. Took one stroll around the floor and found Sheng Qinghua huddled miserably in a shared 4-person room. Although there was, admittedly, a faint awkwardness between them. After all, he'd been someone's Shizun for so many years, it had become a reflex to act the part. Without his folding fan, he hardly knew what to do with his hands. This is insane! We're going to talk about it at the end of the chapter. Oh my god. While strolling around the hospital, Shinyan happened to walk alongside several elderly patients. He guided them to the pharmacy and engaged in some small talk with them. As he turned to leave, he overheard one old gentleman, cane in hand, exclaim to his tardy grandson, "That young man, he's extraordinary. You don't often see that kind of presence at his age. He's got depth, real depth." Shinyan. Compared to his own minor food poisoning incident, Shang Qinghua's real-world body had suffered from electrocution, which was far more serious. Which is why his limbs still twitched now and then. Oh my god. So Shinyan ended up dragging him out of the shared ward, upgraded his stay, and after a quick word with the hospital, had another bed moved to his VIP room. That gave them plenty of time to talk. This is insane. Oh my god. This is crazy. First of all, it's been a long time since I read MXTX, and so reading their style is such a trip compared to... I've literally gone through Word of Honor and I'm on Thousand Autumns since I've read SCUM Villain. That's insane. Oh my god. Shang Qinghua stared at him in disbelief. Cucumber bro, you're actually a rich second gen? And not just good looking, you're rich too? Shinyan arched his brow. Is it really that shocking? I love that Shang Qinghua confirms that Shinyan is actually good looking and wealthy. It's crazy. He hadn't seen his real face in ages, and looking into the mirror again felt oddly nostalgic. As his sister used to say, his looks were deceptive. The room had been filled with his favorite flowers, lily of the valleys. Yes, he knew they were poisonous. There are some of my favorites too, don't worry. Their white bells drooped gracefully beside his chair, matching the pale green leaves. It's so fitting for Shin Qingqiu. Shinyan himself looked much the same, clean, relaxed, and effortlessly refined. Seated with one arm draped over the railing, he was the very picture of an elegant young gentleman. Anyone seeing him would assume he was a man of leisure, a charming drifter, perhaps even a party king. Scratch that. Who would believe he was actually a stupid otaku homebody? Oh, how fraudulent! Shang Qinghua muttered in a daze. Right. No wonder you throw money around like they grow on trees, and no wonder you look down upon Proud Immortal Demon Way. For a normie like you, that kind of brainless wish-fulfillment fiction must be unbearable, but still, if you're rich and handsome, why read something like Proud Immortal Demon Way at all? Shinyan had never met anyone who could humble brag himself into the grave while trying to be modest. But he couldn't deny it. He genuinely wanted to know, too. He just couldn't help himself. Reading that book had always left him in a whiplash state. One moment thinking it was utter trash, and the next sensing the author actually had ideas, and then, no, it was definitely trash again. Anyway, let's change the subject. So your real name is Zhang Fei? Shang Qinghua nodded like a woodpecker. That was how Shinyan had recognized him in the first place. Otherwise, he would never have matched the name to the person because airplane shooting towards the sky was nothing like he'd imagined. Sheng Qinghua looked every bit the handsome young man. But Zhang Fei looked like a quiet, shy, delicate, introverted high school boy. The kind of kid who'd get cornered by loud, broad-shouldered classmates at the stairwell. Give him a melancholy profile, a white short-sleeved shirt, gray lighting, and some ambiguous prop, and he could go straight into the cover of a tragic youth novel. Shen Yan had an epiphany. No wonder Airplane's idea of male beauty was the proud, sharp-featured type like Mo Beijun. Looking like that himself, he probably had been pushed around plenty. No surprise he idolized the ultimate big brother among big brothers. Not that Shen Yan disliked Mo Beijun, he simply preferred Lo Binghei's student council president honor student vibe. Since when is Lo Binghei a student council honor president? Okay. Sure, Jan. Oh, man. Okay. He seized the chance to ask something that had puzzled him for ages. So, tell me, your real name's perfectly normal. How on earth did you end up with such a pervy pen name? Sheng Qinghua protested aggrieved. Oh, you can't blame me, cucumber bro. I didn't want that name. I was young and stupid and I didn't care much about privacy. I tried using my real name first, but it was taken. Then I went from Zhang Fei 1 to Zhang Fei 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then Zhang Fei's fish, then Zhang Fei's pig, then Zhang Fei's cow, through every animal in the zodiac, you name it. At one point I even tried, why is it so hard for Zhang Fei to pick a name? But the system said it was too long. In a fit of rage, I just chose something no one else would ever use. I swear it was the moment of weakness. Besides, Peerless Cucumber isn't much better, is it? Shen Yan's expression darkened. Well, unlike you, mine actually had a reason. My sister was obsessed with a show called Peerless Crown Princess and kept chanting the title around the house. Meanwhile, I was binge reading Proud Immortal Demon Way day and night, too lazy to cook, always gnawing on cucumbers at midnight. The two just fused in my head. It was kind of brain rot. Simple as that. Sheng Qinghua, missing the point entirely, looked deeply moved by his words. So that's it. Cucumber bro. You cared that much about me. Shen Yan couldn't stand it. But facing that innocent face, he couldn't bring himself to roast him. With a sharp swish, he yanked the curtain close again. I have honestly missed this. Oh my God, I've missed this. This is everything I want. This is everything I've wanted. The two of them talking, yes. And in the real world, what? The hospital notified Shen Yan's family he had woke up. His parents, long semi-retired after handing the family business to their unfilial children, immediately picked up his high school-aged sister from school and rushed to his bedside. Seeing them standing before him brought a lump to his throat. After so long in the world of Proud Immortal Demon Way, how could he not miss his family? But he knew perfectly well there was nothing he could do about it. Thinking too much would make it worse. So he never allowed himself a moment to dwell on home, always keeping busy, always rushing about. His two older brothers weren't there. One was at an Antarctic research base, the other deep in the mountains in search of ancient tea trees. He missed them, but by the time they journeyed their way back, he'd probably be yanked back into the book world again. They'd already flown home once when they'd heard about Shen Yan's fatal food poisoning coma. Doing it twice would be cruel to their colleagues, so they just sent him photos of his corpse-like state as a token of concern. Deeply moved, Shen Yan spammed the family group chat with angry vomiting and cursing emojis, verbally abused them for good measure in exchange for a shower of apologies that came in the form of a cash transfer. Oh my God, Shen Yan! As for bringing home a stray patient from the hospital, his family barely blinked. His sister, Shen Tang, gaming on her phone without looking up, muttered, classic move. When he was little, he used to bring home abandoned puppies, bathe them in secret, and then let them sleep under his bed. Only to have nightmares with the dog lying on his chest. Wow! You know, Shen Yan kind of set this whole thing up with Lo Binghei, didn't he? Sheng Qinghua was first confused by the phrase classic move, then touched that Cucumber Bro loved animals so much. Then the realization hit him. Wait, so am I a stray dog that he picked up? After a full round of examinations confirmed that Shen Yan was completely recovered, he left the hospital with several large bouquets in his arms. Naturally, Sheng Qinghua also got the deluxe physical exam package courtesy of Shen Yan, came out unscathed and prepared to return to his rented apartment. Before parting, Shen Yan hesitated and then called out, Do you want to come and stay at my place? It's not that big, but I can fit one more. He knew Airplane lived alone. No family, No one to check on him. And given this man's track record for nearly dying from electrocution while eating instant noodles, what if he nearly drops dead again with no one around? For a moment, Airplane looked tempted, even conflicted. But then he chuckled, "Cucumber bro, you really do love me. But your time's precious. You should spend it with your family. I'll go home and work." Shinyon didn't dignify the love comment with a response. "All right," he said simply, "go work. I'll find you in a few days." Work, of course, meant his most sacred task. Eating cup noodles. No, just kidding. He wants to sort through his drafts and write extra chapters for Proud Immortal Demon Way. Shinyon had no faith in that whatsoever. Every reader knew how dangerous it was to write sequels or extras for an old, once popular series. It was a pure, thankless labor. Readers would just say, "It doesn't feel the same anymore." It wasn't anyone's fault, though. Even if the author stayed the same, the readers wouldn't. They'd walk too far down different paths to meet again at the same cross point. In short, Shinyon had a bad feeling that Airplane's next masterpiece would be nothing short of catastrophe. This is amazing! This is amazing! I feel like that last part there is literally MXTX being like, "You guys wouldn't want me to go return to my very first novel and write some extras. That would be lame." But no, it feels so good to come back. And honestly, this is like every fanfic reader and writer's like dream come true. Like to say the author has canonically made them go back in the real world, you've just opened the door to like hundreds of new fanfics, I'm sure, that have been created since then. Oh my god. Okay, well, I'm terrified about Mobe Jun and Lo Binghae. Absolutely terrified, but we need to see what's gonna happen next. Chapter 2, Welcome Home. Shinyon didn't return to the suburban villa where he'd been living before his hospitalization. Instead, he went back to his family's downtown apartment, a wide, bright space high above the river. If anyone asked why, well, the answer was simple. If he suddenly collapsed again, it'd be much easier to rush him straight back to the hospital. The view from the 95th floor apartment was spectacular. By day, it was a sweep of glittering river along the cityscape, and by night, a sea of twinkling urban lights. 95th floor? What? That's crazy. That evening, the whole house was bright with laughter. A restaurant had sent over an entire feast, and the family gathered to celebrate the third son's recovery and discharge. Beneath his genuine delight, Shinyon felt a faint stir of melancholy. He didn't know how to tell them that in just a few days he might fall asleep again. Nor could he fathom what Lo Binghae must be going through right now. He had only drifted into thought for a heartbeat when his mother's voice cut through, full of concern. "What's wrong, Lao-san? Still feeling unwell?" Shinyon forced a laugh. "No, I'm fine. I'm just a little bit too full." Then the doorbell rang. For some reason, Shinyon felt something stir within his chest. An inexplicable premonition prickled at the back of his neck. His younger sister, Shin Tang, had hopped up to answer it, and a moment later she came back in, eyes wide. Someone's here for you. A friend." A friend? That was strange. Everyone in his family knew his friends, but none of whom could make his sister look that shocked. Could it be? Shinyon moved towards the door. His walk picked up momentum, growing hurried enough that he nearly sent himself stumbling. A steady hand caught him just in time. "Oh, bitch! Oh, bitch!" He looked up and met a face of breathtaking beauty. Lo Binghae gazed down at him, the last traces of panic in his eyes slowly melting into pure relief. Shinyon's breath hitched. He looked from Lo Binghae to his family, his mind a whirlwind of colliding thoughts. First, I need to calm down. He must be so worried. Second, how the hell am I going to introduce him to my family? But the loudest of all was the alarm bell ringing in his head. I like how he first said he needed to calm Lo Binghae down. Bless him. He suddenly remembered that his current appearance was his real-world body. Different face, different build. Lo Binghae might not even recognize him. But that concern evaporated almost immediately. Because Lo Binghae was staring at him with the exact same look he always had in that other world. Even without a word, Shinyon knew that he'd been recognized. Everyone else in the living room looked bewildered, sensing the strange tension. Shinyon reacted fast. Hold on, we'll be right back! And with that, Shinyon virtually rocketed Lo Binghae into his room and shut the door. Shizoon. Lo Binghe exhaled softly, the tightness in his chest easing. What is he wearing? I have to know. I knew it was you. How did you even find this place? Shinyon asked. Shizun disappeared for several days, Lo Binghe said quietly. Mobei told me that the Onding Peak Lord was missing as well. We spent some time and used certain methods. After a few months, we finally traced the location of your souls through your bodies. He said it in such a calm, light voice. But Shinyon knew those phrases some time, and certain methods hid countless difficulties and pain. Mobei Jun's here too? He's here. He went to find the Onding Peak Lord. Shinyon can only pray the airplane doesn't panic and spill instant noodles onto a live socket again. Can you two even get back? Shinyon asked anxiously. It would be a total disaster if he and airplane can return, but Lo Binghe and Mobei Jun can't. Lo Binghe's tone was relaxed. There's no need to worry. My soul is bound to Shizun's. When yours return, so will mine. Wherever Shizun is, I will be. Only then did Shinyon breathe easier. At least there wouldn't be any tragic case of worlds forever divided. But still, how? How could the book's world have intersected with reality itself? He couldn't figure out, and it wasn't the time. There was something else that had him perplexed. How did you recognize me? He asked instead. Now that he's back in his normal routine, saying Shizun felt oddly embarrassing. Lo Binghe smiled. I just knew. Even if Shizun took on another form, I'd still recognize you at a glance. Shinyon drew in a long breath. He needed to explain somehow what was happening, but maybe he'd always known deep down that this day would come. Binghe, he said calmly, I know you may have many questions. But Lo Binghe looked utterly unconfused. He tilted his head slightly. Why would I be, Shizun? You're not wondering why I'm here or why I look like this? Lo Binghe blinked, looking as though Shinyon had just uttered some strange questions. Should I be? Isn't this your original world, Shizun? And isn't this your original self? Shinyon froze. The composure on his face cracked. You knew? Lo Binghe smiled. Of course. So he'd known all along that Shizun wasn't from his world and that he was someone else entirely. Well, since when? Shinyon asked in disbelief. A long time ago. How long? I confirmed it for certain when the demon clan raided Sangshong Mountain right after Shizun had asked me to fight Elder Tianshui. Lo Binghe's voice was calm, almost nostalgic. Lo Binghe was indeed an unbelievable genius. That had been years ago, and Shang Yan could barely remember the name of the Elder Skyhammer Tianshui. Lo Binghe had only been 14 at the time, and he'd already noticed something was off. But I first began to suspect in Shuanghu City, Lo Binghe continued. The exact time when Shizun's soul descended must have happened before then, right? He'd even deduced the correct time frame. Shinyon was stunned, yet Lo Binghe wasn't finished. After that, he said, I reviewed everything. I realized Shizun had changed even earlier. Not long before that, Shizun fell ill with a terrible fever, remember? When Shizun recovered, everything about you was different. The changes just didn't add up. Before that, you'd strike and scold me, and after that, you'd save and soothe me. Doesn't that seem inconsistent? He gazed tentatively at Shinyon as if asking, am I right? After a pause, Shinyon sighed softly. You're right. That's when I arrived. Lo Binghe smiled, feeling as though a burden had been lifted from his heart after so long. I finally got to hear it from Shizun yourself. So that was our first real meeting. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Shinyon asked, well, if you've known all this time, why never bring it up? Lo Binghe looked puzzled. Why would I? It's such a small thing. If Shizun didn't tell me, it meant you didn't want to. And if you didn't want to, why would I ever force you to speak of it? Well, you think it's unimportant? Well, of course, the only thing that matters is that Shizun came to me, and that you're here. Where you came from doesn't bother me. Shinyon couldn't help it. But it didn't bother you. Didn't you think maybe I wasn't really your Shizun? Lo Binghe laughed softly. What could you mean, Shizun? The one who raised me, who guided me, who taught me everything. It could only have been you. Do you really believe me to be so childish that I could not see that? Shinyon was speechless. It wasn't like that. He'd underestimated Lo Binghe by assuming he'd need to sit down for a long emotional talk, maybe even a bit of therapy. But Lo Binghe had already accepted it all years ago. His anxious mind had finally calmed down, replaced by a quiet sense of completion and closure. Then he noticed Lo Binghe staring at him, focused and unwavering. The intensity was so profound that it was almost unbearable, pressing down on Shen-Yan until he felt the urge to escape. He was accustomed to being stared at for his looks since childhood, but no one had ever looked at him with such frankness and unwavering conviction. Lo Binghe was the first. Shen-Yan cleared his throat. Let's not just sit around like this. Oh, come on, I'll take you out to meet my family. Lo Binghe's eyes lit up at once. Yes! That sudden burst of joy left Shen-Yan momentarily lost for words. He handed Lo Binghe some of his clothes to change into. I guess he was in his robes. Well, that would have been a bit awkward, right? Also, does he fit into Shen-Yan's clothing? Really? How does that... I'm just bringing this out here. How does such a towering member fit into Shen-Yan's clothes? I'm just saying, MXTX, I need to know. I need to know these things. When they stepped into the living room, Shen-Yan immediately heard his mother whispering, it's normal for young people these days to do this. It's called cosplay. Oh, don't give him that look. You're being old-fashioned. His father protested while pouring tea. Old-fashioned? I know about this play thing. I was just admiring how well he plays the part. What's wrong with that? His sister, eyes on her phone, muttered without looking up, stop arguing. The play's over. They're coming out. They all turned to stare. Okay, so they just assumed it was cosplay. Okay. Got any extra bowls and chopsticks? Shen-Yan asked casually. He's staying for dinner. In the cupboard, his mother said, pointing. Shen-Yan dished up a bowl of rice. His father asked, Lao San, your friend? Nope, Shen-Yan corrected. My disciple. His name's Lo Binghe. Following the script Shen-Yan had drilled into him, Lo Binghe greeted politely, though for some reason he had voluntarily summoned a charming blush to his cheeks. Hello, uncle and auntie. Oh, hello, his mother said brightly. What is she related to RuPaul? Come, Xiaolu, have a seat. His sister squinted. Your disciple since when? What did you ever teach him? He's not some kind of kid you went to school with? Shen-Yan kept a straight face. Gaming. Just a little cultivation-themed combat game. I'm second in command of the biggest guild in the game, so I have to train newbies. There's an in-person event coming up, and Binghe's... playing the game's final boss. He's come over to show me his costume. He'll be performing a short skit, so we're rehearsing his lines together. He'll stay with us for a few days. His mother beamed. Oh, I see, Xiaolu. You're absolutely playing that costume. Good luck with the performance. Shen-Yan nearly bit his tongue trying to contain his laugh. He does look great, doesn't he? That's why we chose him to play. Lo Binghe seemed to catch the underlying meaning, and his blush deepened. Thank you, Auntie, for your kind words, but I'm quite ordinary. It's my Shizun whose appearance is truly breathtaking. He's akin to a celestial being. Shen-Yan explained placidly to his parents, Binghe's a top student majoring in classical literature. That's just his way of talking. You'll get used to it. I see. His parents nodded. Very cultured. Not like the kids these days. Oh my God. The meal went on. Shen-Yan kept one wary eye on his sister, but thankfully she didn't suspect anything. She glanced at Lo Binghe's long hair for a bit and then slipped off a hairband from her wrist and offered it. Here, use this. I love how she's so dry. She's just like, here. Yep, here they come. All this. She's like Aubrey Plaza. I love it. Thank you, Lo Binghe accepted it politely and earnestly. He examined the hair tie, which had a cotton puppy attached to it. The puppy looked goofy looking and was even wearing a tiny bib. Lo Binghe made no comment or show of confusion, but just in case, Shen-Yan reached over. I'll help you. Lo Binghe sat obediently, hands on his knees, posture perfectly straight like a well-behaved student awaiting instruction. As Shen-Yan gathered Lo Binghe's long hair and tied it up neatly, he made a mental note to take the boy to a salon for a haircut tomorrow. Oh, that's going to be interesting. He took a step back to examine his disciple. Not bad, he thought. Cute, even. Something about Lo Binghe suited cute in an unnervingly natural way. Shen-Yan couldn't help but laugh. His sister looked up. When did you start playing games? What game? I want to try. Games are a waste of time, Shen-Yan said solemnly. Your only job right now is to study hard. Since when did you just start sounding like a tired elementary school teacher? Shintang muttered in confusion. Is it just me? No, I feel it too. Their mother agreed fervently. Anyway, Shen-Yan huffed. Oh my God. I was studying hard when I was your age. And look how that turned out. His sister said dryly. You studied hard and now you're still playing games. What's the difference? Play now or play later? He surrendered instantly, pressing his palms together in a mock salute. She is the undisputed apex predator of their household indeed. When he looked up, Lo Binghe was smiling. What are you laughing at? If Xinyan had held a fan in his hand, he would have smacked him right there and then. This insolent disciple. Just then his mother glanced at Lo Binghe and suddenly exclaimed, Wait! Isn't that Bin Bin? Lo Binghe blinked, confused. The others turned to look at the little dog on his hair tie. His father adjusted his glasses, nodding. You're right, it does look like Bin Bin. And that ugly bib, too. It's like the one that Lao San loved putting on him. Xinyan's face darkened. First of all, the bib wasn't ugly. It was my best work. Second, of course it looks the same. I had it custom made according to Bin Bin's photo. Who's Bin Bin? Said Lo Binghe curiously. His sister happily supplied the tale. My brother's old dog. We weren't allowed pets, but in the 6th grade he secretly brought home one that had been hit by a car. He bandaged it up like a mummy and shared his own meals with it and let it sleep on his bed. And one night it rolled onto his chest and almost suffocated him. Shin Tang, Xinyan interrupted through gritted teeth, could you not tell that story to literally everyone I introduce you to? It's not even funny. But Shizun, Lo Binghe said earnestly, I think it's a wonderful story. Could Uncle, Auntie, and your sister tell me more about it? Okay, a few things real quick. One, the dog story is basically Xinyan taking in Lo Binghe and healing him and taking him in like a puppy. And then he becomes like the giant wolf that is Lo Binghe. So he takes him in. One thing. Two, how is Lo Binghe fitting into his clothes? MXTX, explain, please, because we know how this anatomy works unless it's changed once you go into the real world. Just saying. And three, I do want to note this. When has Lo Binghe been this like calm and composed? And my only thing with it so far is that if he's known since the beginning that Shin Chingcho has really been someone else, if he's known since the start and knew that, then, I mean, I'm not mad at it, but it does make me call into question, like, all of his arguments of how, like, every time someone's been like, well, Shin Chingcho treated you terribly in the past, it does make me call his character into question a little bit. Like, is this out of character? Is this different? I'm curious to know y'all's thoughts about that twist, because if he's known since the beginning, it makes me look back on some of his interactions with Shin Chingcho, and I don't know. I don't know if that makes me look at them differently. Curious. Curious to know your thoughts about that. I guess we'll wait towards the end to see how the rest of the story goes. Chapter 3. I want to know what Mobe Jun and Shang Qingcha, how that's going. Chapter 3. The world that made you. Although I do love his sister. Shin Tang, she's a real one. Love her. I also love that he's starting to like get into his tendencies as Shin Chingcho and wanting the fan, but he sounds more teacherly. Love it. On the 3rd day back in the real world, Shin Yan was up. Okay, because it is a week, so it's 7 chapters for a week. Okay. Shin Yan was up at the crack of dawn. Time was a luxury he couldn't afford to waste on sleep. He booked a stylist. It was time to drag Lo Binghe out for a haircut. Shin Yan couldn't help but sigh of admiration. As expected, the protagonist, his face specs are just on another level. So many actors can only rock one style, doomed to be in either a period drama heartthrob or a modern fashion icon, never both. When your facial features weren't top tier, you needed vibes to carry you, and your specific flaws usually locked you into one aesthetic. But Lo Binghe's face? Flawless. From every angle. 360 degrees of pure perfection. Okay, Shin Yan, I mean, let's be real. This man is simping pretty hard right now. This is like every modern AU fanfiction writer's dream. However damp you want to make that dream, it is a dream. Oh my God. Shin Yan was half tempted to shave it all off into a buzz cut just to see if he'd still be handsome. He managed to restrain the impulse, though. After all, in his books, buzz cuts belonged into the 9 circles of aesthetic hell. Fair. A clean, normal style would do just fine. He hovered around the stylist, buzzing with unsolicited advice. Oh, thin it out a bit here. Make the bangs wispier. Even short hair needs a sense of flow and movement. Shin Yan, my dude. You've got it bad, my dude. Lo Binghe just sat there, quietly watching Shin Yan talk and gesture, hanging on to his every word as if it was the most fascinating thing he'd ever heard. Since Binghe was taller, Xinyan's own clothes fit him awkwardly, so Xinyan dug out some of his older brother's old college outfits. Okay, there we go. Just like that, the dark, intimidating demon lord transformed into a white-shirted university student. It was the simplest, cleanest look, and yet the lethality remained. Binghe slipped in one hand into the low-slung pocket, a move he'd mastered without being taught. Oh my god, of course, because he's the protagonist. Studied his reflection and asked thoughtfully, Shizun, do you like this appearance? Xinyan adjusted Lo Binghe's belt buckle, meticulously rolled up his shirt sleeves to reveal the stretch of pale, strong wrist and gave him a once-over before replying lightly, Not bad. Like it. Is he kidding? College student Lo Binghe was drop-dead gorgeous. Was he even allowed to look this good? I am glad that Xinyan has accepted his sexuality so well. I'm glad that he's accepted it at this stage of the game. It took less than a day for Lo Binghe to completely and utterly win over Xinyan's mother. By noon, he was politely and efficiently commandeering the kitchen, handling every task himself. His mom just stepped in, took one taste of the food, and immediately launched into praise that could shake the heavens and the earth. Whoever marries Xiaolu in the future will be the luckiest person alive. Lo Binghe blushed and replied with humility, Well, thank you, Auntie. Binghe also hopes for that, too. From the living room, Xinyan kept glancing back from the news broadcast to the kitchen, utterly bewildered. What kind of bizarre and inexplicable family dynamic was this forming? That evening, Xinyan decided to take Lo Binghe out to experience modern society, turning it into a family bonding trip. The entire Xin family set off, a lively and noisy procession. Xinyan had pre-imagined some sort of adorable scenarios. Maybe Lo Binghe would see something unfamiliar, his eyes wide and uncertain like a timid puppy, too scared to take a step until Xinyan smiled and encouraged him. Then, Xinyan could patiently teach him, like guiding a child. After all, once Lo Binghe grew up, there wouldn't be much left for Xinyan to teach him. He might as well get his fill by being the indulgent Shizun now. Unfortunately, he soon discovered he had imagined way too much. That was pure unadulterated stereotyping, nothing more. As expected of the protagonist, Lo Binghe's learning and adaptation skills were downright terrifying. While Xinyan had been sleeping soundly, Lo Binghe had been studying at an inhuman, almost violent pace. By the time Xinyan woke up, the curious, wide-eyed Lo Binghe from the night before was gone. He already understood the world inside and out. Not only had he devoured textbooks from the elementary school to university level, he'd even strong-armed the retired dream demon, Meng Mo, into opening a time-dilated space so he could binge-watch the entire top 250 movie list overnight. What kind of insane move was that? He, Xinyan, a native of this world, hadn't even seen half of them. But while Lo Binghe now understood the modern world, his perspective on it was different. Xinyan realized there was a fundamental misunderstanding. Someone from magical Zhansha world might not actually be all that impressed. Airplanes? Pfft, spirit beasts could fly. Sword fighting is a thing. What's special about a plane? Do people think they have large-scale sword fights, formations, television? None of that. People move inside the colored box. How amazing nonsense. They have scrying mirrors in this world. They could see anything they want, and it was all real. Any moderately powerful cultivator could just say, I want to watch a ghost head spider lay eggs, and the mirror will show them that in all its horrifying graphic detail. Of course, Shen Chao would imagine that. That'd be his example, because, he's a monster lover. The internet? Why waste time arguing with strangers on a screen? If you have a problem with someone, then just fly over and challenge them to a face-to-face duel. Far more straightforward and satisfying. Xinyan felt like he'd lost a major source of joy. Even watching movies seemed pointless for Lo Binghe. The big screen was, at its core, just a cheap substitute for witnessing grand spectacles and wonders firsthand. But Lo Binghe came from a world where you could literally fly up and see those spectacles. Want to witness a wonder? Well, Lo Binghe could create one on the spot. And to be fair, the movie itself was terrible. How did it manage to have a plot even worse than something airplane shooting towards the sky could write? As wave after wave of overblown flashy CGI washed over the screen, Xinyan sneaked a glance at Lo Binghe beside him. His expression was blank, as if he were silently questioning the fundamental purpose of this entire activity. A bunch of people sitting in a dark room getting emotional over moving pictures? Why? Only when Xinyan looked over, their eyes meeting, did his gaze soften slightly. The one comforting thought was that at least Lo Binghe seemed to like the popcorn. Xinyan's sense of accomplishment in providing for him was, at the very least, satisfied. I guess I hadn't thought about the idea. The whole thing of Meng Mo interfering and creating a pocket dimension so that Lo Binghe can learn everything about the world itself. does seem like entirely plot armor and a giant plot convenience, but Lo Binghei's entire existence is kind of a plot convenience, so I'll let it slide. And plus it's done for humor, so I'll let it slide. But poor Shin-Yon's like, I wanted to show him the real world, and in comparison to Proud Immortal Demon Way, it's like, there's not much that's better. Although I do love that Lo Binghei is bonding with Shin-Yon's mom, because Lo Binghei, lost his mother and misses her deeply, so him getting to bond with Shin-Yon's mother is actually adorable and totally in character. Love that. After the movie, the family strolled along the riverbank. Shin-Yon was chatting with his parents, offering a scathing critique of the film, when he turned to notice Lo Binghei a few steps behind. He was watching their noisy, laughing group with a faint, unreadable smile. Shin-Yon slowed his pace to fall into step beside him. Judging by your reaction, Shin-Yon said, you didn't find today very fun, did you? Lo Binghei tilted his head. Does it matter, Shizun, whether I find this world interesting or not? Did it? Maybe a little. It wasn't about wounded pride or some misplaced sense of superiority. Shin-Yon wasn't like that. After a moment's thought, he sighed softly. You're only here by a stroke of chance. Of course I want to show you something interesting. Otherwise, he'd feel like a bit of a failure as a teacher. Lo Binghei looked down with a faint smile. Perhaps there isn't much here that's truly fascinating, but this is the world that gave birth to Shizun's soul, isn't it? Shin-Yon's steps faltered. Lo Binghei looked at him, the reflections of the river lights shimmering in his eyes, along with Shin-Yon's own silhouette. For that reason alone, he said quietly, it is extraordinary. Shin-Yon was momentarily at a loss for words. Just for that, Lo Binghei added, his voice soft, I want to understand it more. So Shizun, you need not worry about whether I find its novelties amusing. It wasn't about finding a world interesting because of its contents. It was about finding a world worthy because of a certain person that existed within it. The world was blessed from the very start because of that. Shin-Yon blinked and then coughed lightly. All right, I get it. After a brief struggle, he added, but next time maybe don't study quite so hard. Leave your Shizun a little room to actually teach you, will you? A student who learns too independently is bad for the teacher's ego. Lo Binghei smiled and nodded. Understood, Shizun. Just as Shin-Yon was about to give a modest, approving nod, he heard a sharp crunch from behind. Turning, he found his little sister standing there, having just finished her soda, straw in mouth, watching them. Lo Binghei remained perfectly composed, but Shin-Yon sensed troubled from her expression. What are you staring at? He asked warily. She slurped up the last drops, crushed the can under her foot, tossed it into a bin, and shoved her hands in her pockets as if pondering the profound mysteries of the universe. Finally, she said in a low, solemn voice, don't worry, I'll keep your secret. She sighed, honestly, I always knew you were destined to die alone. I just didn't expect it would turn out like this. Hey! Don't curse your own brother like that! And what you mean die always knew? He wasn't that hopelessly reclusive. He was only a half shut-in. Half! By all reasonable standards, he was a functioning member of society. Oh! I love the sister. I love that she knows. She's like, I know what you are, but she's like totally accepting. And I love... what? I'm feeling torn. We're like halfway at this point, almost halfway through this. I'm feeling torn because on the one hand, this is everything that I could have wanted for these two right now. But on the other hand, having read the rest of SCUM Villain Self-Saving System, I'm like, where was this Lo Binghei? Where was this reasonable, like-minded, calm Lo Binghei? Where's he been the whole other 3 novels? I'm like, what? Granted, we don't know how much time had passed since the end of the 3rd novel and these extras. Maybe a lot of time had passed. We don't know, but I feel as if this Lo Binghei would have been a lot easier to deal with in Volume 3. Just saying. Just saying. Anyway, Chapter 4, Proud Immortal. Day 4. Shin-Yon finally heard from Sheng Qinghua. His phone lit up with a frantic stream of messages from someone with an airplane as their profile picture. Bro, do you have any idea what is happening? This is terrifying. He found me. He crawled out of my computer like the girl from The Ring. I almost had a heart attack. My brand new laptop, my instant noodles. I'm talking about Mobe June. He said Lo Binghei is here too. Is it true? Are you still breathing over there? Shin-Yon's eye twitched. Crawling out of the computer. Okay, Lo Binghei's entrance was normal by comparison. Not that he knew where his disciple had originally popped out of. For all he knew, it could have been even more horrifying. It's the end of the world. I'm calling it! Screaming internally.jpg! How are they even here? Does this mean I'm actually the creator god? I can't handle this kind of pressure. Shenyan felt a powerful urge to yank a curtain shut on this conversation. Finding no curtain, he did the next best thing. He blocked Xing Qinghua! No! And a minute later, he unblocked him. Airplane, blissfully unaware of the brief digital exile, continued. He asked me why I ran. He looked so betrayed. I think he was on the verge of tears. It was terrifying. What am I supposed to say? My lord, it was an accident, I swear. I had to sweet talk him for an hour before he calmed down. He's so high maintenance. I'm more exhausted than when I pulled an all-nighter writing 18,000-word daily updates. I feel like I've been run over. This is the first chance I've had to message you. Just you wait, I'm going to have to ask him about Lo Binghei to borrow the Dream Demon's power. I need a time-dilated black room in my dreams. Oh, so he got one too. Okay, well, there you go. The new Proud Immortal Demon Way isn't going to write itself. Please tell me he hasn't found your manuscript. Don't worry, I've got it locked down tight. Moby June's a man of his word. If he promises not to look, he won't. It's just... I tried to take him out to see the sights, but he was bored by everything. Oh, my messages keep failing to send. The signal's probably crap up here. The last sentence caught Shenyan's attention. Where are you right now? Shang Qinghua sent a selfie. One glance and Shenyan felt dizzy. He was pretty sure that these two had just accidentally broken a world record. Shenyan rubbed his temples in disbelief. What mountain did you even climb? I don't know! I took him to the amusement park. I thought, hey, pirate ship, Ferris wheel, classic fun, called it a good night, but I woke up and he'd moved us here. Bro, I'm scared. Shenyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was a complete mess, but at least someone was keeping Airplane Bro company. Beats being alone in a tiny apartment with just your keyboard and instant noodles for comfort. He thought for a moment and typed out an analysis of the situation. He probably thinks you enjoy this kind of thrill ride. He was trying to show you that any excitement you want, he can provide right there beside you. Hello? You alive? Right. Next time, skip the amusement park. Try somewhere normal. Not that the amusement park wasn't normal. Airplane Bro was presumably still among the living. Because shortly after, earth-shattering news broke. Zhang Dian's literature's most controversial hit, the legendary Proud Immortal Demon Way, had just dropped 180,000 words of new bonus chapters. 180,000 words! Airplane's typing speed remained truly terrifying. The new Proud Immortal Demon Way clearly was ready to run for another 10 million words. But the forums were in absolute chaos. The most shocking part, according to the reader reports, was that Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky, infamous for his trashy, no-shame, wish-fulfilling novel, was suddenly writing a serious story. The new content had completely ditched the brainless, dragged-out style. Character fates were altered. The SCUM villain, Shin Qingqiu, for instance, seemed to have a completely different personality. Characters who died early, like Baizon Peak's Lord Liu Qingge, were now alive. New characters like Lo Binghei's parents had been introduced. This was a whole new Proud Immortal Demon Way, set in a parallel world. Readers were flooding in the forums, passionately debating the new plot and characters, while others were at each other's throats over whether the story was now trash, if the characters were out of character, and if Airplane has lost his touch or finally found it. A glimpse of the most popular discussion posts. OMG, did Airplane just pivot to bromance? 3.9k replies. So disappointed, what is this crap? 206 replies. Battle of the Century, Lo Binghei versus Tianlong Jun. Who is the true heavenly demon? 1.2 thousand replies. It's just not the same. Let the old story stay pure in my memory. 619 replies. Unpopular opinion, I like that he dropped the harem. 781 replies. I paid for a harem. Where's my harem? Refund. 111 replies. Poll, who's the top beauty? Liu Mingyan or Xia Hualing? 888 replies. The ultimate showdown. Could Yu Qingyan beat Liu Qingge without Zhan Su's HP drain debuff? 961 replies. This is peak. I never knew that Proud Immortal Demon Way had such deep lore. We heavenly demons were born to conquer. 442 replies. The MC is butchered. This isn't Lo Binghei. Trash. 339 replies. Excuse me? The moment that Shenyang saw the last title, his fighting spirit ignited. White-hot fury surged through him. How dare they? Criticize the plot all you want, but who gave you permission to slander the protagonist? He recovered his password at lightning speed and logged onto the legendary forum account known across the Proud Immortal Demon Way discussion boards. The former elite, now legendary reader, whose points and tipping history dwarfed all others. Peerless Cucumber. He cracked his knuckles, positioned his keyboard, lined up all 3 phones beside him, all comment sections open and ready. The war had begun. General Peerless Cucumber was reporting for duty. 1. Retired old grandpa. Who is this guy? His forum level is insane. Chinge's #1 fan. It's Cucumber, bro. You don't know him? You must be new here. Bison Peak enthusiast. What's it to you? Not everyone followed the serialization, you know. Sangsong Stairway Steeper. Long time no see, Cucumber bro. Since when did you become an airplane defender? Weren't you his biggest hater? P.S. Bison Peak enthusiast, chill out. Liu Mingyan the beauty. He's always been a fan. He just loves Lo Binghe that much. From Liu Mingyan! Oh my god! Ling Air's Bell. Why is this fandom so toxic? I'm just here for my girl Xia Hualing. Airplane, write a Xia Hualing side story and I'll forgive you. I just want her to step on me. Off with SQQ's balls. He just loves Lo Binghe +1. Bring back the old glory. Honestly, Cucumber Bro has a point. This isn't a new direction. It's a return to form. Airplane's early writing was actually like this, more nuanced. He wasn't writing power fantasies and no one read them. Although he did get popular later on, he also flushed his dignity down the drain. Nostalgia, but it tracks. This feels like the old Airplane. And can we just appreciate Cucumber Bro's glow up? Man's gone from hater to believer. He's quoting deep cuts from Airplane's back catalog. Certified fan status achieved. Just a bypasser. No shade, but I'm amazed such a proud and dedicated Proud Immortal Demon Way fan exists. Peerless Cucumber is a legend. I certainly won't be forgetting his name anytime soon. Peerless Cucumber legendary, you can waste your time gathering your little downvote brigade, or you can face me yourself. Can't even be a proper keyboard warrior, at least mop up after them. 10 years of reader OP. This trash fire is trending again. Same old crap. Don't tell me you can't see the blatant queer baiting. Then again, stands will eat up anything. Onding admissions office. He just loves Lo Binghe +2. We're here for you and with you, Cucumber Bro. 10 years reader OP. This comment has been removed for violating community guidelines. Chijing Peak education, your peace of mind. He just loves Lo Binghe +999. I mean, it ain't queer baiting, but all right. Holy shit. That whole thing about Shang Qinghua and Mo Beijun taking him into a mountain is the funniest thing I've read out loud in ages. That was amazing! Ah! Okay, all right. Oh my god. Oh my god. And him just like getting back on the forum. Oh my god. Chapter 5, Chaos and Clarity. Peerless Cucumber reigned supreme. His whirlwind of devastating wit left the forum in ruins, leaving a trail of flawless victory in his wake. But as the saying goes, pride goes before a fall. He soon discovered that extreme joy begets sorrow. Lo Binghe had finally found something that piqued his interest. And that was none other than Proud Immortal Demon Way. It felt like the flood of his world had just given way. The moment that Shenyan realized what Lo Binghe was reading, a wave of sheer helplessness washed over him. He could never predict that Lo Binghe's insane thirst for knowledge would extend to this. He's binge reading web novels! Binge reading web novels. Cold sweat dripped down Shenyan's temples at the thought. Lo Binghe suddenly chuckled. Shizun, look what I found. Oh my god! Shenyan walked over, his mind racing. He made a split-second decision. He looked at the text with feigned surprise and asked, oh, what is this? This book is peculiar, Lo Binghe said. Shizun, have you never read it? Never, how strange. Shenyan replied, the picture of innocent! Yeah, right, he knew exactly what it was, and it wasn't about to admit a thing, because admitting it could trigger one of the following nightmare scenarios. Scenario 1. Lo Binghe looking utterly shattered, the foundation of his world crumbling as he whispered, so I'm just a character in a book? None of this is real? Scenario 2, Lo Binghe's gaze igniting, crimson and accusing as he demanded, so in Shizun's eyes, am I just a fictional role, not a real person? It was a fatal trap. Shenyan's head throbbed just thinking about it. For one, he had no idea how to handle that kind of existential crisis. He had no experience or confidence in mending a shattered worldview. And for two, he had absolutely refused to create such an unnecessary misunderstanding over a pointless truth. But none of the scenarios he dreaded came to pass. Lo Binghe's attitude was calm, showing no surprise, let alone a trace of despair or sign of breaking down. The one feeling despair was Shenyan himself, because he realized Lo Binghe hadn't just finished the novel. He had clicked open the book reviews. Shenyan's soul nearly left his body. Oh, hell. What is he doing reading the post by Peerless Cucumber? This person's rather interesting, Lo Binghe remarked. No, he's not. He's not interesting at all. Shizun, Lo Binghe continued, I feel there's important information hidden within this book. Shall we meet with Mobei-jun and the Onding Peak Lord today to discuss it? Shenyan knew this was inevitable. Sure, he agreed reluctantly. Shenyan immediately messaged Shang Qinghua. The two quickly aligned their stories, determined to keep their identities secret. Shang Qinghua was terrified that his son, yes, he considered himself Lo Binghe's father, would despise him. Especially when Shang Qinghua had written him as a legendary playboy scumbag and filled the plot with trashy, reader-serving nonsense. As for Shenyan, his reason was even more obvious. He felt that if Lo Binghe ever witnessed the glorious spectacle of him single-handedly taking on the entire form of Proud Immortal Demon Way, he would never be able to face his disciples as a teacher ever again. With Shenyan's agreement, Lo Binghe smiled. Then Shizun, let's depart from Mobei-jun and the Onding Peak Lord's estate. Shenyan chose his words with care. Would that be appropriate? I believe they're currently staying at your Shishu's place. I'm not sure his residence is meant for hosting large gatherings. Calling Shang Qinghua's rented room an estate felt like an insult to the word itself. Lo Binghe, however, looked genuinely puzzled. Is that so? Mobei-jun has voiced no such concerns. What? Since when did an esteemed demon lord, the kind who one might imagine waking up in a palace of jade and obsidian, find a tiny fluorescent-lit rental apartment unobjectable? Now Shenyan was curious. He had to see for himself how these two were managing in their living situation. But when they prepared to leave, the sight that greeted him was nothing short of astounding. Shenyan had intended to call his family driver, but Lo Binghe stopped him, saying it wouldn't be necessary. They took the elevator down, and as the doors opened, a sleek SUV stood waiting by the building's shimmering fountain. Its body was mirror smooth, reflecting the light in shifting painterly patterns, the chrome grille resembling an intricately crafted silver mask, and the streamlined body was both elegant and sharp-edged. Lo Binghe stood beside the vehicle, casually tossing the key in his hand. Dangling from the keychain was that familiar goofy cotton puppy in a tiny bib. Well, hold on, where'd this SUV come from? And the driver, just what has he been doing in this world? Seeing Shenyan's questioning look, Lo Binghe smiled gently. Well, Shizun, there's no need to be alarmed. I promise I haven't done anything this world would consider improper. So I believe that no matter where we are, I must be capable of protecting you. So I've made some modest arrangements. Hearing this reassurance, Shenyan felt somewhat relieved. Truth be told, Lo Binghe had been quite well behaved lately and probably wouldn't be doing anything too extreme. But then another thought struck him. Wait. Lo Binghe spent every night at his place. When exactly did he find time to make these modest arrangements? How is he finding the time? How did he even manage to teach himself to drive like a pro? Thanks to Lo Binghe's warning, Shenyan wasn't the least bit surprised when the SUV pulled up in front of a 3-story villa. The villa's owner appeared to be absent, but soon enough, Mobei-jun arrived, though Shenyan never quite expected this kind of entrance. A black sedan stopped at the gates, a bodyguard respectfully opening the rear door. Out stepped Mobei-jun, his expression cold and aloof behind sunglasses, his suit impeccably tailored. Trailing nervously behind him was a pitiful, terrified, and utterly helpless-looking Shang Qinghua. What a classic dramatic entrance. Shenyan couldn't help but feel Airplane Bro must have shown Mobei-jun way too many questionable entertainment productions. He really wanted to ask, where did you get this car? And the bodyguard. Never mind the car. Ask about the villa first. Actually, forget it. Just, what is with this whole mafia young master act? The scene was simply too blinding to look at directly. The formerly decently tall and reasonably presentable Shang Qinghua now looked like an innocent high school student standing next to a domineering CEO. His slender frame appeared especially pitiful and vulnerable, inevitably making people imagine all sorts of shocking scenarios. Shenyan glanced down towards Shang Qinghua. Shang Qinghua wore an expression of pure terror, his eyes silently screaming, "Don't look at me, Cucumber Bro. This all started when he said my place was too small and my bed was too cramped. Anyway, he claims he didn't do anything like murder or arson to acquire all this, but as for the specific methods, I dare not ask, and I really don't want to know." What? Inside the villa, Lo Binghe tossed a physical copy of Proud Immortal Demon Way onto the table between the four of them. And so the four of them began their research session on the novel. Shang Qinghua spoke first. To think such a thing exists, what a remarkable book. But theoretically speaking, wouldn't the author of this book be the creator god? Wouldn't that make him Mobaijun's father? Xinyan was speechless. He had never met anyone with such a powerful dad complex. He was so desperate to reclaim his paternal dignity, yet he had none to speak of. He didn't even dare voice Lo Binghe as his son. He was just testing how far Mobaijun's newfound tolerance would stretch. As expected, Mobaijun barely glanced at Shang Qinghua, completely indifferent to the suggestion. Shang Qinghua visibly deflated. Of course, Xinyan thought, Mobaijun barely acknowledged his real father. Why would he care about some random author? It seemed Shang Qinghua's dream of hearing someone call him dad was doomed. Oh my god! Being a Shizun was clearly the more stable career path. A teacher was for life, but a father was just a suggestion. How tragic. Creator God? Impossible, Lo Binghe cut in dismissively. The author merely possessed some psychic sensitivity, allowing him to glimpse echoes of another world. Xinyan understood immediately. Well, that's one way to look at it, he said thoughtfully. It made sense. Some people were naturally attuned to other dimensions, catching fragments of reality like radio signals. Perhaps Zhang Fei had subconsciously picked up pieces of their world and woven them into his narrative. This would explain how they could cross between worlds. They had to exist on the same plane. No wonder Lo Binghe wasn't having an existential crisis. But this completely overturned Xinyan and Shang Qinghua's long-held understanding of Proud Immortal Demon Way. It wasn't just a book. It was a window to another reality. But still, so many questions remained. Now there were three known worlds. The modern, real world, the original Proud Immortal Demon Way world, and the revised Transmigration world. Clearly they all existed on the same level, so what was the relationship between the original and Transmigration worlds? How was this Transmigration world created, and where did the system come from, and what was its purpose? They could no longer blame this on, quote, an author's grudge after being forced to change his plot. Airplane was just immortal. He couldn't possibly have this kind of power. Lo Binghe was literally at the pinnacle of fantasy cultivation world. If he couldn't explain the system, then what did that make it? Xinyan hesitated, wanting to discuss this further, but terrified of exposing himself. Will you try to find the author? He ventured. Fortunately, Lo Binghe shook his head. It's unnecessary. His sensitivity to the other world seems limited. He may likely be as confused as anyone. There's no insight to gain from him. Oh, how so? The narrative of Proud Immortal Demon Way is wildly inaccurate, Lo Binghe stated coldly. The characters are hollow, the logic nonsensical, and the prose is unbearably bloated. It was an extremely unpleasant read. Got it, Xinyan thought. You think it's badly written and out of character. Lo Binghe's frown deepened. I've always treated Ning Xingji and Liu Shimei with nothing but respect. The book's suggestion of romantic entanglements is pure fabrication. Parts like the conquering of the 100 flower spirits read like fever dreams. This work is profoundly vulgar. Well, I think its scale probably can't compare to the stuff Sleeping Willow Flowers and the others wrote, but you're right. Whenever Airplane wrote about women, he completely lost touch with reality. He's not even as good as Sleeping Willow's flower. The corner of Shang Qinghua's mouth twitched. I was just giving readers what they wanted. I was just trying to make a living. Xinyan shot him a look as if saying, shut up, you spineless author. Mobaijun, who'd been silently reading his copy of Proud Immortal Demon Way without even removing his sunglasses, spoke flatly. Why is the Braving the 100 Flowers chapter so much longer than the others? Xinyan almost laughed. I know this one. That's where he padded the word count by having the protagonist conquer over 100 flower spirits. That was 3,000 or 4,000 words of purple prose per maiden. Of course it'd be much longer. After a moment of silence, Lo Binghe said expressionlessly, the flower spirits remain their larval or insect forms for life. They find human shapes repulsive and view humans with contempt. The notion of romantic involvement is biologically impossible. That's certainly a piece of knowledge unbeknownst to most. Airplane, I have no words. Core world building just doesn't change, right? So it must have been your own improvisation. Insect anthropomorphism? That's way too hardcore. What kind of mind-shattering stuff did you make Lo Binghe read? Mobaijun deadpanned. Perhaps it was a fetish. Perhaps he enjoyed the idea of being swarmed by bugs. Shang Qinghua. Trembling like a hamster, he scrambled over to Mobaijun. Oh, my lord, it's not all that bad, right? I mean, the parts about you are at least tolerable, right? Mobaijun looked down at him. Are you a fan of this book? Sheng Qinghua glanced fearfully at Lo Binghe, who showed no reaction. Shen Yan decided to throw him a bone. Well, what if he is? There's no crime in appreciating a story. Gritting his teeth, Sheng Qinghua confessed, yes, I'm a fan. I'm a die-hard, original 10-year veteran fan. Mo Beijun thought about it. It's acceptable. Sheng Qinghua looked as if he'd been granted amnesty. Thank God. To be honest, if you just looked at Mo Beijun's parts, they were indeed acceptable. Mo Beijun's subplot was relatively palatable. Airplane had handled his character with a lighter touch. Never mind who he was modeled after, but Mo Beijun was, among all the characters, the least out of character. Although there were still plenty of questionable creative choices. This finally broke Shen Yan's patience. He grabbed his phone and fired off a text. You outrageous biased author. How dare you load the protagonist with every trashy trope while going easy on your favorite side character? Sheng Qinghua, sitting across from him, also frantically typed on his phone. The protagonist bears the heaviest burdens. The comments demanded it. The peer pressure was immense. I admit I was weak. Lo Binghe delivered his final verdict. What truly confounds me isn't the author, but his audience. The author seems to have sacrificed any authentic voice in pursuit of popular appeal. He wasn't writing a story he believed in. He was writing what he thought would sell. I wasn't a fan of those parts. I hated them too. It's no use. I'm forever tainted. Shen Yan and Sheng Qinghua shared a silent look and then averted their eyes, clinging to their secret identities. As the discussion neared its end, Shen Yan noticed the airplane had gone quiet, seemingly lost in thought. This was quite unlike his usual self. What's wrong? Shen Yan asked. What's on your mind? Airplane looked up, unusually serious. I was thinking, what if our world is a story too? Don't fall into rabbit holes like that, Shen Yan said flatly. Well, how can you, whether this is a story or not is irrelevant, Shen Yan declared. Would it change how you live? Our meaning isn't given to us. We create it. We are the meaning. Next topic. Sheng Qinghua blinked impressed. Shin bro, I didn't know you were an existentialist. I'm not, Shen Yan retorted. I'm more surprised that you know about existentialism. Even though it wasn't some profound concept, given the level of language proficiency exposed in Airplane Bro's writing, Shen Yan hadn't expected any philosophical literacy from him. Sheng Qinghua smiled awkwardly. Hey, don't look down on me. I graduated from a top-tier university, you know. We are fellow alumni, you know. Really? Shen Yan was shocked. You went to my school? How is your brain so full of Chinglish and bad grammar? Their alma mater was notoriously selective. Well, I went into creative writing after graduation. English is like advanced math. 80% of people have never used it again after learning it, so of course they forget. The peak of my English proficiency was during the college entrance exams. There was another thought that Shen Yan had kept to himself. Sheng Qinghua's idea was viscerally terrifying. It short-circuited his brain. The mere notion that some unseen audience might have been watching this entire life. Every bit of his tangled drama with Lo Binghe, their endless push and pull. He couldn't bear to dwell on it. How horrifying. Thankfully, he was reasonably sure that no one would be interested in reading that particular story. Right? MXTX is definitely talking about us scummies. Oh, that's such fourth wall breaking. Oh my God, that's such fourth wall breaking. Oh my God. Okay. That evening, after returning home, Shen Yan and Lo Binghe had dinner with his parents and sister. They took a short walk after dinner and retreated to their room. The moment the door closed, Lo Binghe posed a question that caught Shen Yan completely off guard. He tilted his head and asked, Shizun, do you know what a system is? Not bad. He's even started reading system novels now. Just how many pounds of web novels has he devoured? I know, Shen Yan replied. Why do you ask? He's not going to ask me for recommendations, is he? Lo Binghe said, I've been thinking, the system in this world is essentially the same as a parasitic spirit in our world. What does Shizun think? Parasitic spirits, entities like the now-retired Dream Demon, also friendly nicknamed Portable Grandfather. Now that he mentioned it, the system and a Portable Grandfather were indeed similar. Both required the host to complete certain tasks in return for rewards, and the main difference was the Dream Demon was a living entity, but the system was like artificial intelligence. That's a reasonable comparison, Shen Yan said, intrigued. But his interest was short-lived. Because Lo Binghe smiled and asked, Shizun, do you have a system? As expected, the protagonist from another world, his intelligence stats are maxed out. Well, yes, even though the original Proud Immortal Demon Way is no longer the same Proud Immortal Demon Way as its core, the protagonist is still the protagonist. It wasn't just out of habit that Shen Yan thought of Lo Binghe that way. When one becomes a being of peerless supremacy, it follows they becomes the protagonist of the world. After rapidly weighing the pros and cons, Xinyan chose to tell the truth this time. Yes, he stated plainly. As I thought, Lo Binghe nodded. Shizun's body in this world has no spiritual power. Therefore, only a parasitic spirit could transport Shizun's soul between the two worlds. Then Lo Binghe took a deep breath and knelt before him. Although Xinyan was used to him kneeling, seeing the university student version of Lo Binghe on his knees was particularly jarring. He had been sitting on the bed now, but now shot to his feet. He startled. What are you doing? Lo Binghe's gaze was heavy. So back then, Shizun pushed me into the endless abyss because the system forced you to. Is that right? Xinyan let out a soft sigh. Yes. A complex mix of emotions flickered into Lo Binghe's eyes. Something like relief, but also a hidden pain. I see, he said. Then he suddenly slapped himself across the face. The blow was swift and vicious and startled Xinyan, who grabbed his hand in panic. What are you doing? Kneeling on the ground, Lo Binghe looked up at him. Shizun was forced into an impossible position, and I in the endless abyss, I truly held a shred of resentment towards you. And later, I frightened you. Xinyan couldn't deny that. It was terrifying. But Xinyan couldn't stand to see Lo Binghe like this. Well, that's no reason to hit anyone, he said, furious. How can you hit someone I raised? It was my fault, Lo Binghe insisted. Please, punish me, Shizun. Xinyan was at a loss. How could he punish him? He couldn't bear to raise a hand at Lo Binghe. Seeing his helplessness, Lo Binghe bowed his head and buried his face in Xinyan's knees, his expression hidden. A shred of resentment is very little, Xinyan said softly. I don't mind. But Shizun never even had a shred of ill will towards me, Lo Binghe whispered. Why should you have to bear the weight of my shred of resentment? But Xinyan, recalling their first reunion after Lo Binghe climbed out of the endless abyss, though he'd been terrified at the time, now remembered the look in Lo Binghe's eyes hadn't been one of hatred, but of heartbreak. He knew this disciple better than anyone. The shred Lo Binghe spoke of probably amounted to nothing more than a moment of weakness. Perhaps getting so enraged and pained that he might sketch a tiny picture of Shinchingcho on a scrap of cloth with his own blood, stare at it for a long time, and then eat it. Come on, Xinyan said gently, back on your feet. Only then did Lo Binghe silently rise. Xinyan motioned for him to sit beside him on the bed. They sat in silence for a long while, and then Xinyan fetched the small first aid kit by the bedside and turned Lo Binghe's face to the side. Lo Binghe obediently complied. Xinyan carefully applied ointment to his cheek, and his heart aching. He hit himself so hard, half his face is swollen. But it was so unreal. How could someone still look so devastatingly handsome, even with a bruised and swollen face? After a long silence, Lo Binghe finally spoke. Shizun's parasitic spirit is too powerful. Not only can it move Shizun between worlds, but its presence is also undetectable even to me. Shizun, we must find a way to remove it. In truth, Xinyan didn't particularly feel threatened by it anymore. Since the main quest ended, the system had become passive. When it did show up, it usually was to deliver gift packs. It felt more like a pet now. It remained quiet even at Lo Binghe's declaration to remove its existence. But it was, after all, an entity of unknown origin. There was no guarantee it would never harm Xinyan, and Lo Binghe's concern was reasonable. We'll look into it together, Xinyan agreed. Perhaps we can try to trace its origins. Only then did Lo Binghe seem to relax slightly. It was clear he would have accepted Xinyan's refusal if he didn't want to remove the system, but the worry would have gnawed at him. He seemed thoughtful. Still, regardless of its origin, I must confess a part of me is grateful. If not for it, Shizun would never have come to my world. And if not for it, Shizun would have never pushed me into the endless abyss. Xinyan was taken aback. Why would you be grateful for that? Lo Binghe let out a soft laugh. Half his body was cast in shadow as he looked at Xinyan, his gaze deep and dark. He spoke word by word. Because only an act like that would be enough to make someone as kind as Shizun remember me for the rest of your life. Ooh! Okay, we should probably get into this before we move into chapter 6. The entire confrontation of the four of them over the book is great. I feel like I'm so happy that they finally talk about this. I'm so happy that Lo Binghe and them, that he finally knows there's a system and he finally knows what the cause of it was and they finally have talked through it. Like, this communication is what I've been dreaming of since the start of reading the novel and MXTX. Why did it take you so long to get here? Like, there is a tiny part of me, I'm not gonna lie, there is a tiny part of me that feels like this glosses over everything that happened in volume 3 and 2 and 1, glosses over everything and just is like, oh, he, was a little resentful. I'm like, what? There's a part of me that's like, they gloss over so much. But on the other hand, maybe it's just because I've had a lot of time pass between reading that volume and now, but the fact that they're at least talking about it, and it's not an apology per se, but it is an acknowledgement. And it is like Lo Binghe recognizing, and I'm kind of about that. I'm on board with that. I'm so glad they finally talked about this and it's getting addressed. I have dreamed of this moment. This is why you all wanted me to read this for the last year. Okay. All right. Okay. We got 2 chapters left. Chapter 16, the origin chapter. Deep in the night, something resurfaced in Xinyan's hazy mind. Only back when Lo Binghe fell into the endless abyss had the system gone offline too, leaving only an automated reply. It seemed to have said that Lo Binghe was its primary power source. Maybe he should tell Lo Binghe this and see what he thinks. When Xinyan sat up, he realized Lo Binghe wasn't beside him. Oh my god! He's probably out exploring the world again. Understandable, kids were always extra curious about new places. Since when is Lo Binghe a child? Stop that! Suddenly, Xinyan heard a familiar chime. The system is back online. In this world? In this world? What? The following is a message from all systems. We sincerely request the host to communicate with the primary power source, Lo Binghe. Please do not uninstall this product. Please do not sever the system's connection to the current holder of the account Shin Qingqiu on my knees crying.gif. Xinyan, that is, Shin Qingqiu could hardly look at this thing that had once stressed him out so much. Since Lo Binghe was a primary power source, if he decided to pull the plug, the system can't fight back. Is it here to ask for a favor? Shin Qingqiu asked tentatively, if I help you, what's in it for me? Should the host provide assistance, the system will reward a declassification dossier containing insider intel on the system's origin. Really? Shin Qingqiu waved a hand. Approved. Hand it over. I like that he become Shin Qingqiu again. All he'd promised was to talk to Lo Binghe. The outcome wasn't guaranteed. Communication could always fail. However, the bar to read his declassification dossier is absurdly high. Shin Qingqiu found himself pulled into a separate space. Staring at the mountains of scrolls piled around him, his face darkened. How many words are here? 921 million. 900 million words? Over 900 million words? That's not even humanly possible to read. Proud Immortal Demon Wave was less than 20 million words, and reading that had nearly killed him. 921 million? He'd lose his mind before learning any insider intel. Would you like to spend 100,000 satisfaction points and 100 integrity points to enable easy mode? Yes or no? Integrity points. Easy mode. How nostalgic. Shin Qingqiu's motto was pay to win, never grind. He clicked yes immediately without any hesitation. Pay to win, never grind. Oh my god. Instantly, the mountain of scrolls vanished, leaving just one in his hand. Shin Qingqiu sat on the floor, unrolled the scroll across his lap, and began to read. It was as he just expected. The truth was far more complicated than he'd imagined. First, there weren't just 3 worlds. Long ago, there was a 4th. It was the world where the original Lo Binghe was born. But like a burnt-out flame, that world had long since faded from existence. Shin Qingqiu was stunned. Wait, faded from existence? A fantasy cultivation world can just end? Naturally. Especially without a Lo Binghe present. The world cannot resist any cataclysmic level disaster. For example, a cataclysm in your modern world. Approximately 66 million years ago, an asteroid impact, accompanied by volcanic activity and climate change, led to the extinction of numerous ancient species, including the dinosaurs. Oh, spare me the lecture! I get it, thanks! So even asteroid impacts were serious business in fantasy worlds. What should he call this origin world, Lo Bing-hei? Bing-mei was taken by his disciple. Bing-gay belonged to the stallion protagonist. Bing-day sounded weird and close to Tiang Longjun, so let's go with Bingzu. Okay. The original world was where Lo Bing-hei lived in eternal, undying solitude. He even sank his own father into a sea of magma with his own hands, and no one ever reached his heart, not even till the very end. Shinshingcho read carefully, then summarized, Bingzu seems pretty messed up too. Well, every Lo Bing-hei is messed up, just in different ways. But Bingzu didn't even seem as unhinged as Bing-gay. Bingzu wasn't a stallion protagonist either. He never let anyone get close to him anyway. Thinking it over, Bingzu felt more like Bing-mei. This Lo Bing-hei lived in solitude for millions of years until he lost all desire, even growing weary of his own existence. His fate was sealed. Altering the past would create new branches of reality. It couldn't save him. But he still yearned for a different ending. Even if he'd never see it. Even if he didn't know what ending he wanted. If he couldn't have a better end, then he would rather have never existed at all. So using his own body as a crucible and his own soul as fuel, he forged a batch of parasitic spirits with his burning soul. Carrying his legacy, the spirits were destined to seek any opportunity to fulfill his last decree, a rewritten ending. And several centuries after his fall, a world-ending cataclysm descended. Without its Lo Bing-hei, the world was consumed in a magnificent shower of meteors, becoming a blazing sea, and then it was no more. The parasitic spirits drifted across space-time, seeking someone with the potential to change the ending, and send them to the starting point of Lo Bing-hei's life. In the modern world, to help their hosts understand their existence as quickly as possible, the spirits studied a popular concept from web novels, and thus they adopted a new name, System. The system's first chosen candidate was Zhang Fei. Zhang Fei was an ordinary web novelist who took his writing seriously but had no sense of the market, hence his lack of success. One day, he subconsciously sensed fragments from the original world and decided to use them as foundational inspiration for a novel. In his original outline, though, Lo Bing-hei would end up alone. He would meet many good people during his life's journey, and while his life would have regrets, it would still be worthwhile. Not a perfect ending, but better than the original. In essence, Zhang Fei was like a biographer of Lo Bing-hei, taking up major creative liberties, but doing a decent job regardless. The system peaked at his outline, and had greatly admired this new story he had woven. They had placed high hopes on candidate number 1. So they secretly endowed his keyboard with a powerful ability. Whichever and whenever this author wrote Lo Bing-hei's story, his keystrokes could directly influence the course of that other world. But they never expected their star candidate to flop spectacularly. Candidate number 1 had a fatal flaw, a troubled home life, financial struggles, and parents who frequently forgot to send him living expenses. Having no idea what mission he carried or what power he wielded, and under immense emotional and financial pressure at the time, he panicked. And in desperation, he abandoned his original outline and chose to pander to the market instead. He cast his integrity aside and produced his magnum opus, a brainless, padded, wish-fulfillment version of Proud Immortal Demon Way. The ending was twisted into something even more bizarre. The most outrageous part was that nothing Airplane wrote should have been able to affect Bing-gay in the first place, because Lo Bing-gay's personal will cannot be controlled. But the problem was everyone else was fair game. Take Ning Yingying and Ming Fan and the rest. They were mediocre to begin with, not the brightest. If their original IQ was 50, candidate 1 had downgraded it into the negatives. Picture this. Lo Bing-hei stuck in a circus crew of characters with the collective IQ of a doorknob. No wonder he was starting to lose his mind, too. The system had never expected such an absurd development. They were no less appalled. What was wrong with this guy? He had potential, but where did his integrity go? He'd somehow established his own twisted logic and indirectly warped the protagonist into it. He was indeed a creator god, just the creator god of a garbage verse. To stop him from distorting things further, and to give this talented individual another chance, they confiscated Airplane's keyboard and powers and kicked him back to the starting point. Now that he'd been thrust into the narrative itself, surely even he lacked the audacity to be that shameless. The systems had finally had enough. Cultivators of great power could physically cross world barriers, but ordinary people could not. For someone from the modern world to enter the world of proud immortal Demon Way, they needed a physical shell. Luckily, the system had a gotcha pool of shells. They even made deals with people who despised both the world and themselves, trading alternate paths for their souls in exchange for the use of their physical bodies across all timelines. Candidate 1 took his gotcha pool and drew Shang Qinghua. A decent draw, all things considered. A solid choice. Aside from his identity as the Onding Peak Lord, there were no major flaws. But he once again drove the system to despair. This guy was just completely checked out. He couldn't even get him to move even a whip. Each system would observe its host, probing the limits of their tolerance, having a dynamic difficulty system tailored to each user. Every system was custom made for its host, and thus each system's nature ultimately reflected the person it served. Oh my gosh, this is crazy! Yet Shang Qinghua's approach was exceedingly conservative. For years he toiled like a donkey at the millstone, yet his impact on the world was negligible. A total waste of his innate creative spark. And the most infuriating part was this. The moment the mission target changed to Mobe June, that damn candidate number 1's efficiency and motivation skyrocketed. Falter before Lo Binghe, but throw down for Mobe June. Reading this, Shin Qingqiu screamed internally. Airplane shooting towards the fucking sky. How could you dare deny you're a side character fanboy? In the end, the systems held a council and tearfully conceded defeat. Enough. Not another word. Their top priority was now to fight candidate number 2. And fast. Restarting a world consumed a massive amount of power. To conserve resources, the system decided to employ candidate number 2 in the same world. It seemed there might be hope for it yet. Governing through non-action items had its merits after all. After careful selection, the systems fished someone out of the forums. Excellent. This reader seemed highly dissatisfied with the story's integrity or lack thereof. How touching, since anyone who actually liked Proud Immortal Demon Way would instantly be disqualified from their candidacy due to their terrible taste. But most importantly, this person was deeply invested in Lo Binghe's fate. His long reviews were incisive. His short comments always hit the mark. Every tip he gave to the story demonstrated his deep investment. Every critique he made finally revealed the weight of his disappointment. He clearly possessed a profound understanding of both the story and its protagonist. This had to be the perfect candidate. Or that's how it should have been. But they never expected 2 disastrous errors to occur during Candidate 2's soul transfer across the world barrier. First, the timing was wrong. Shin Yan was deployed at the timeline when Lo Binghe was already 14 years old. Second, the character was wrong. Shin Yan's hell of a gotcha pull landed with Shin Qingqiu, the man who abused Lo Binghe in every single world. 2 critical errors. The perfect hellish start. This run was hard-locked from the start. What kind of gameplay is this? Go screw yourself! To prevent butterfly effects and ensure Lo Binghe's smooth career past the demonhood, several key items were fixed in place, welded into the timeline, and completely unchangeable. And among them was this. Shin Qingqiu must push Lo Binghe into the endless abyss. Which meant that Shin Yan was destined to be killed in revenge by Lo Binghe just a few years later. What could such a short-lived character possibly do to change the world? The systems convened and argued. Some thought that they should just abandon this world. It was hopeless. Others believed they should give him a new body and let him keep striving. They bickered back and forth, no consensus. Yet to their astonishment, candidate number 2's performance soon left the systems completely floored. This guy was way too efficient. They'd never seen a host deploy so effectively. Given him an objective, he operated with like special forces. The mission difficulty and pressure levels kept rising, yet Candidate 2 maintained a remarkably stable mental state throughout. Beneath his laid-back exterior lay an unwavering internal drive. After dealing with so many hosts who slacked off, ran away, or just exploited the system's power, to finally encounter someone who simply functioned was enough to move them to tears. But the surprises from Shin Yan edition Shin Qingqiu didn't end there. In stark contrast to the checked-out Shang Qinghua, under this Shin Qingqiu's influence, the IQs of Ning Yingying and the other NPCs didn't drop, they leveled up. They shattered the baseline intelligence cap and kept critting all the way up to the top. He bulldozed through the main storyline, not only progressing to the unprecedented Tianlong Jun story arc, but also saved the host of peripheral characters. Among them was Liu Qingge, a figure doomed to an early death in every other timeline. Not to mention, the Lo Binghe of this world was brighter and more vibrant than ever before. Every version of Lo Binghe served as the primary power source for the systems. They could feel the energy he supplied. It was abundant, warm, and pure. This world itself seemed to pulse with strange new vitality. I love the fact, okay, the idea that we're explaining how all of these worlds work and that the systems are like little ghost fires that are born from the OG Lo Binghe that have tried to like give Lo Binghe a better ending. So good. But the fact that like Shin Chingcho is realizing, Shin Yan is realizing how good he's done in this story. So good. Finally, the system shared some internal gossip with Shin Yan. The system that recommended Shin Yan for the job had been promoted. Now the leader of all systems. 'Tis I. What's with that emoticon? You want me to condemn you? Commend you? If the host desires to do so, the system does not object. Shin Chingcho paused and asked, so your mission, is it complete? The mission has been accomplished long ago. Then why are you still stuck to me? The host offers the best employee benefits. Shin Chingcho didn't ask about the benefits. The system offered him an explanation. The host's body contains an abundant satisfaction point reserves, which are allocated for the disbursement of all systems' operational compensation. Well, hey, now stop using such creepy corporate jargon. So that was it. If Lo Binghe forcibly removed it from Shin Chingcho, it wouldn't be able to pay the other systems their salaries. Oh my God, MXTX. As Shin Chingcho pondered, the system bombarded him with pop-ups. Click to download Hard Times, a systems memoir. Systems deserve peaceful retirement too. Oh, my niece crying.gif. Fine, I'll put in a word. Thank you, host. Pleasure doing business. This product will provide minor assistance when needed. Throws confetti.jpg. Forget it, no thanks. If by assistance you mean more of those small scenario pushers or gal game style choice prompts, I really don't want to know what else you've been learning in the modern world. Shin Chingcho remembered something. One more thing. When I landed in the world, I asked what happened if integrity points hit 0. You said I'd be sent back. Correct. Shin Chingcho ventured, so if I'd hit 0, I'd have just woken up in the hospital. Affirmative. What the hell? So back then, one slip, and he could have gone home. He could picture it lying in the hospital, happy but confused. Did the system just throw a tiny tantrum? No real consequences? They really decided this playthrough was beyond saving and just scrapped the whole thing? Of course. Of course it would have been. Chapter 7. Always together and ever after. The winds over Sangcheong Mountain would always be free and boundless as the sea and sky. Before Chijing Peak's bamboo forest stood a simple bamboo cottage, now connected to a newly built thatched pavilion where Shin Chingcho and Lo Binghe sat together. At leisure, Lo Binghe sat there, contently crafting a cup from a selection of emerald green bamboo. A new cup for Shin Chingcho. He slowly rotated the emerging vessel, carefully shaving down every potential splinter with his dagger. It was delicate work and time-consuming, but he maintained the perfect patience. He'd been working on this project ever since their return. Shin Chingcho, meanwhile, let his thoughts drift. He briefly explained things to his family before leaving. Essentially, he might occasionally collapse without warning, but not to worry. He'd always bounce back within days. Their previous separation had been too sudden for proper goodbyes, and this one was filled with hope instead of sorrow. Even though crossing between worlds required immense energy that took time to accumulate, there was always hope to do so again. Shin Chingcho's thoughts drifted to Liu Qingge, who had gone to visit Liu Mingyan at Jianshu Peak. He truly hoped that after his previous educational interventions, the siblings might finally develop something resembling a normal relationship. Anything would be better than those painfully silent sittings that lasted an hour. Couldn't they at least discuss books they'd recently read? Though preferably not those romance novels by Sleeping Willow's Flower. Speaking of which, even Ying Ying had begun to read those lately. How inappropriate! Then there was Xia Hualing's recent fashion choice. Metal shoes spiked from sole to upper that looked more like a weapon than an actual footwear. That one particular guy in the proud immortal demon way form might want to reconsider the request to be stepped on. Ha! And then there was Sheng Qinghua, who had finally replaced the Leisure House plaque at Onding Peak. Now he was agonizing over a new name, determined to restore his disciple's reputation. Lately, he'd been insisting to anyone who would listen, I'm not slacking, I'm very productive, I wrote 18,000 words a day. Rumor has it that the old plaque now hung in Mobe June's bedchamber, deep in the northern demon territories. The demon seemed genuinely fond of it, perhaps because he'd grown accustomed to staying there in the human realm, or perhaps because he was truly a man of such leisure. He had developed a habit of appearing out of nowhere. His now you see me, now you don't, next you don't routine was such an effective jump scare that Shang Qinghua's screaming became a fixture of the peak's soundscape. Xin Qingchao's thoughts drifted to the very beginning, to why he had first loved Lo Binghe as a main character in the story. It had nothing to do with the ruthlessness he honed later on, nor the edgy darkness that so many readers now admired. What captured him was the boy that Lo Binghe had been at the beginning. Back when the story started strong, when Airplane wrote with care, treating his plot like a fragile dream worth protecting. A time when the author still seemed to believe in the story he was telling. He remembered the day a shipment of teacups arrived shattered at Qijing Peak. Everyone blamed On Ding Peak's careless delivery, complaining about having nothing to drink from. The new disciple, isolated and eager to connect, had carefully selected bamboo and carved cups for everyone, just as his mother had made for him as a child. But no one valued the humble gifts. The bamboo cups were knocked aside during play, forgotten as they rolled across the floor. While the other disciples chased each other into the distance, laughing, the boy alone gathered the discarded cups. That lonely gaze had stirred something in Xin Qingchou. Long before he knew how the story would end, he had felt the powerful urge to change this character's fate. He remembered the system's earnest words after his furious ranting that night. The world's existence rests with Lo Binghe, but Lo Binghe's reason for living rests with Xin Qingchou. It had said that without Xin Qingchou, what awaited Lo Binghe was loneliness and destruction, a death in which he would wish he had never existed at all. This world was changed by you. This world is your world. Beside him, Lo Binghe glanced over and smiled. What's on Shizun's mind? Will you share it with Binghe? Xin Qingchou wondered, do you like this rewritten ending? He wasn't sure whom he was asking. Lo Binghe or the world itself? The world, of course, gave no answer. It had simply given up its search for a different ending and now continued on, a gentle and unending story. Oh my God! Okay! We're going to talk about I love it. I love it. I love the idea that they're like, we'll just save up energy to maybe go back, but we'll just stay together here. Shut up. Shut up. Okay. All right. Afterward by MXTX, Mojang Tong Yu. Little Grasshopper is finally hopping onto the shelves in its simplified Chinese edition. Since this release coincides with the story's 10th anniversary, oh my God, and the publishers approached the project with such genuine enthusiasm, I decided to write a brand new side story to celebrate its reunion with all of you. Honestly, I'm surprised as anyone. I thought it would be tough to find new things to write, originally expecting just 3,000 or 4,000 words, but once I started, the story just took off and leaped all the way to 25,000 words. That's the magic of this little grasshopper. It never fails to bring a light heart. It doesn't need chasing. It hops right into your hands on its own, chirping and bouncing about, bright and full of energy. Yes, even this Afterward is just as lively. It amazes me. How can this little one, even after 10 years, be so vibrant? Well, it's all thanks to you, dear readers. New and old who never forget to give it a little nudge now and then. And so it nuzzles back, reminding me, don't you forget about me. Of course I would not forget. This book was my first full-length novel. It has its rough edges, places where it could have been better, but it also holds every bit of effort I could muster back in my student days. I'll always cherish those memories, juggling classes while praying I wouldn't fall or fail, struggling through driving lessons as the instructor scolded me, all while happily chatting with readers in the comments section amid updates. And if you weren't there back then, let me send my blessings your way. And if you were, let me give you a heartfelt hug. Thank you truly. Mojang Tongzhu, February 17th, 2025. Girl! Translator's note. The fan of the SCUM villain Weibo community is named Little Grasshopper, which is a nickname that MXTX gave herself gave the story. She once shared a dream that she had where the Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation was a traveler returning on a snowy night. Heaven Official's blessing was a warming stove of red clay. Oh, those are such good comparisons. Yes. Together they formed the poetic scene of a pot of wine amidst the flowers. With Heaven Official's blessing as the flowers and Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation as the wine. As for Scum Villain, she imagined it as a lively little grasshopper woven from a blade of fresh green grass. Those descriptions are perfect. They are literally perfect. Okay, so please read this. Chapter 7 translation note. It was really hard to choose a translation for the system, the world's existence rests with Lo Binghe, but Lo Binghei's reason for living rests with Shin Ching-cho. The original Chinese literally translates to, without Lo Binghe, the world would end. But without Shin Ching-cho, Lo Binghe would end. That's so good. Yes, meaning that they both are necessary for each other to exist and for the world to exist. Oh, I debated among many choices, including the world needs Lo Binghe to exist, but Lo Binghe needs Shin Ching-cho to live. Without Lo Binghe, the world would fall apart, but without Shin Ching-cho, Lo Binghe's world would fall apart. The world owes its existence to Lo Binghe, but Lo Binghe owns his reason for living to Shin Ching-cho. No, you chose the right one. Yeah, you chose the right one. The title of this chapter is a deliberate echo of the final chapter of the main story. Book 3, Chapter 21, Always Together, is the official 7C's English translation. Lo Binghe is the foundation upon the world upon the world is built, but Shin Ching-cho is the meaning that make Lo Binghe's existence worthwhile. I kind of love that in this world, MXTX basically establishes that Lo Binghe is kind of the foundation of everything, but the ending is always bad until Shin Ching-cho comes along and he changes the world to have a better ending. Chapter 6, Translator's Explanation. Governing through non-action is a Confucian Taoist concept of governing a country through minimal intervention, aligning with natural order rather than forceful action. It's the art of doing by not doing. It's being humorously applied to the system's decision to let the world develop organically rather than constantly intervening too much. The Chinese philosophy class I took in undergrad is coming back to haunt me. It's much more complicated than what I explained so far, but it's all you gotta know for the purpose of reading this here. Ha ha ha. Chapter 2, someone asked about the wordplay behind playing, cosplay. The humor there is a bit tricky to translate directly, so here is the explanation. In the original Chinese, Shen Yan's family repeatedly uses the English word play written in all caps. In modern Chinese internet slang, play has picked up some risque connotations, often referring to kinky or erotic role play. The joke is that Shen Yan's parents are using this word completely innocently. They think that they're just talking about cosplay and being supportive and modern. But to any Chinese reader that's familiar with the slang, it sounds like they're accidentally cheering on Lo Binghe's very convincing performance in a much more intimate context. And Shen Yan just rolls with it. The funniest part is while Shen Yan's parents are utterly oblivious to the double meaning, Lo Binghe, our quick-studying protagonist, seems to have picked up the subtext by now. So his deepening blush isn't just from the praise for his cosplay, it's because he somehow understood the other, more provocative layer of the compliment he was receiving. So just imagine the family enthusiastically using a word like kinky while thinking it means fan hobby or fun hobby, and you'll get the vibe. Ah, that makes sense. Oh, here we go. Hey! Look at this! A note on Binghe's character! I received a DM asking about Binghe's softer, more stable demeanor in these new extras compared to the main story. Hey! Someone else thought about it too! Look at them! Look at them! Look at them! Look at us! Look at us all connecting! Look at this getting done! Here are my thoughts. I feel like Binghe is softer and more stable in the extras, not because the earlier translations missed it, but because MXTX intentionally wrote him that way to show he's grown up. He's not scared anymore. He knows Shin Ching-cho loves him and won't leave, so that desperate, anxious edge is gone. Now he can just be with him, in the teasing, doting, relaxed way we see. And since he fully understands that Shin Ching-cho is actually Shen Yan, the love feels deeper and more grounded, like he finally sees and accepts the person he's been chasing all along. It's such a warm, peaceful kind of love now. I feel like it's MXTX's way of showing a healed Binghe who can finally love without fear. Of course, that's just my take on it, but it really feels like she wanted us to see that side of him. Yeah, I agree with that completely. We're going to talk about that for a hot second here in a second, but yeah. And to all the scummies, you are my greatest motivation. Thank you so much for taking the time to read my translation and for all the kind words you've shared. Jin. Sharing a Bing Chu fanmade video made me cry years ago. It still makes me cry now. Grab some tissues. It'll hit close to home. And there's a Billy link to it. No, I completely agree to this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm glad that they addressed that, because I did feel like Bing felt really out of character, but out of character because of how we've seen him throughout the 3 main novels, and then to see these extras, he felt like a completely different, he felt like an older character. He felt like he was older and more mature. But I think that Jen's explanation is exactly what it is. And that's what I was going to talk about, is that it's so interesting to see MXTX come back and write this 10 years later, because it feels like someone that's come back and wrote it 10 years later. And it makes me emotional, because I'm sorry, anytime MXTX I read their work, they're like Afterwards translated, it's just like the way she writes cuts to like the core of your being. It like gets under your skin and burrows there. And I'm like, oh, like she has such a way with words. I love her Afterwards. They feel so heartfelt. They feel so real. I love them. This was amazing. If the whole, I am torn, because there's a part of me that's like, if the whole novel could have had it's one of those things where it's like it's a double-edged sword, and it's like the biggest monkey's paw, because there is a part of me that's like, the what if of if MXTX had wrote this after Heaven Official's Blessing, after Modao Zushi, what would that story be like? Because the tone, the way that she writes these extras, it feels so much more mature. Like you can feel it. You can feel her maturity as a writer compared to the actual 3 volumes that the story's in. You feel her maturity as a writer. You feel how she handles humor. You feel how she handles... There wasn't a drop of sex in these extras, which is what I was not expecting. But it works, because with SCUM Villain, I feel like with SCUM Villain, they don't have to. We've done that, and we saw what that's like. We don't have to do that here. It's like the one danmei where I'm like actually asking for no sex. like Modao Zushi, they are consensual kinky bitches, and we're all for their consensual kink. They both have been mutually kinky since the beginning, and they are fine with it. And Heaven Official's Blessing, they like are soulmates who wrap each other in a warm embrace, and the sex is like so intimate and beautiful. And here it's like, we can just be platonic lovers sharing this space in silence, and we love each other, and that's all we need. Good? We good. Okay, good. And that's enough. And that's enough. I was dreading the extras in a sense, because I was dreading it, because I was afraid of what sex scenes would be like in this, and I was so pleased that instead of getting that, it's like the one time in danmei, I was like, oh, thank God. Because we've seen how much it's hurt both of them. And to see them go through that pain, it's like you don't want to see that again. So instead, we focus on like just the modern AU aspect is insane. I cannot get over it. I want to see all the fan art now. I need to see all the fan art now. The one thing I am a little sad about is I would have liked a little more with Mobaejun and Shang Qinghua, because I like their dynamic in the story as a relationship. I would have liked to have seen more than that, but that's me being greedy. I'm being greedy. But it is kind of like what I was trying to get at is there's a side of me with the double-edged sword where I would like to see Bingay through this like mature lens. I'm kind of like, man, there's a part of me that would have loved to see the story from MXTX 10 years later as a more mature writer. But then there's another part of me that really appreciates that this was her first story and how raw it is. I get what people are talking about now when they talk about how raw it is. I get it. And there's parts of SCUM Villain that I probably wouldn't read again because it's too much. Because it's too raw and it's too insensitive for me. But there's other parts that after reading these extras, I would go back to and I would check out again. Especially the Mobaejun and Shang Qinghua part, and especially the parts with Shang Qinghua and Shin Qingqiu. But though, if I'm going to say one thing that kind of makes me go kind of like head tilts at it, it's that I'm going to feel like a hypocrite saying this. But I want you to hear me out. I want to explain myself. But I like if you have a character that is raw and very, very flawed, I want to see them like grow from those flaws and find ways to make themselves better. but I don't want them to become perfect. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And there's an aspect about Bingay in this, and it's justified by the story itself, because the story says he's perfect. He's literally the god of this entire world, apparently. But because the world has to have him. So you get it, and I understand it, but from a personal perspective and taste, it would have been more interesting and felt more in character to see him be maybe a little bit more like himself from the original novels. Here it almost seems like MXTX like erased all the rough edges and made sure he looked perfect, but in doing that, he's not really the character to me. He's not Bingay anymore. He feels like a different character almost. And it almost feels like he gets Hwa-Chongified, if that makes sense. It almost feels like he got a little Hwa-Chongified. And he's not Hwa-Chong at all. And I don't want him to be. He needs to be like the puppy aspect of Lo Binghay. Like, instead of him becoming like a dog or a wolf or a guard dog or, you know, a big full-grown dog versus the puppy Bingay that we get, instead he feels like he's a man. But that's not comparable. So it's hard to explain. I'm not mad at it. I don't mind it. I love these extras so much. It does make Bingay feel a little bit out of character. And that's just me. And this is my perspective. I mean, I understand what I agree with Jen. I think that's what it is MXTX writing him, being like, look, this is what he would be like if he wasn't all, and that's with it too, is that I get what MXTX is doing, saying, well, you wanted to see what a fully stable, fully functioning Bingay would be like. Here you go. In these extras, here's what he is. And that's cool. And I like it. He just feels so perfect. It's kind of like, you know, it's like at least, you know, like with Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian, like I would say of all three, I would honestly say, looking back now, of all three dynamics, I think theirs are the most interesting to me. I mean, I love Shili and Hwa-Chong, arguably maybe the most from Heaven's Visual Blessing, but I think the most interesting dynamic is Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji. I think they have the most complex, interesting dynamic out of all the characters that she's created. I love Hwa-Chong and Shi Lian, but it's apples and oranges, and then this is a kiwi. But I just feel like Lo Binghay, in showing him more grounded and being deeper, he kind of like feels blander, if that makes sense. I don't know. That's my only like kind of takeaway with his character feeling so different from the novels. And it almost feels like, in a way, and I get it. Don't, you don't have to explain to me. I get it. I get that time has passed and Shin Ching-cho is always going to accept him, and they love each other and it's all great and everything. It's just, I get it. I get it indeed. It's just, it's an interesting choice. It's an interesting choice indeed. But man, y'all, I'm so sorry that I had to make you all wait so long before I got to these extras. These were amazing. This is my favorite part of Scum Villain. This is my favorite part of the whole book series. Everything. This is it. This set of extras. Okay, that might be a lie. That might be a lie. They kept Shin Ching-cho in character a lot. I thought he was completely in character throughout the extras. I loved him. And Shang Qinghua, perfection. Love it. Absolutely love it. I don't want to say it's my favorite out of the whole novel series, because there are the Mo Bei-jun and Shang Qinghua. Those are really good. But this is up there. This might be my favorite part of the whole series. That's kind of crazy. I want to talk about it with y'all in the comments. I think there were some parts that felt like a little easy, like him learning everything about the modern AU by using Meng Mo, and like they basically have their own little like Dragon Ball Z-esque like room to train in away from everything. That part felt like, okay, we've got 7 chapters, let's just speed run how we do this. But the world building and the explanation at the end and him figuring out the systems and everything, I love that. That part was great. And there was so much that I wanted to have answered that has now been answered. So I want to talk with you all down below. I have literally talked for 2 hours about these extras, but it is 2 hours so well spent. Oh my God. Y'all, this has been amazing. I never thought that I would be sitting here talking about Scumville and Self-Saving System again. It's also so crazy to go back and read MXTX's writing, because I've not read Faraway Wanderers. I've just watched Word of Honor, but reading Thousand Autumns by Meng Shi is a much different experience, and I'm seeing how different they are, but this is still good. If you've not watched Thousand Autumns with me, watch and read this with me. You're in for a treat. You are in for a treat. But, this feels good. The completionist in me feels like we've accomplished something. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Yay. I'm sad now that they don't have the Donghua, because I would love to see this animated. Get on that, Billy. I don't think they'll ever animate Scumville in its entirety. There's no way. There's no way. The censorship would not. But they would probably do this. They could do this. Chinese government would allow this. This all seems appropriate. They could let that happen. Get on that. Animate this. Animate the extras. If you're not going to animate the rest of the novel, get this. So, thank you all for joining me once again for some Scumvillain content. It feels like it's been forever, but I hope you enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I cannot wait to discuss with you down in the comments. So please do me a solid and like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see some danmei on Mondays and get caught up with Thousand Autumns. And see what else. We also are doing Lord of the Mysteries, which is every other Saturday right now on my channel. And it's a donghua and it's amazing. And you should check it out. And otherwise, please like the video and please comment down below and let me know what you thought about these extras, about everything, about Scumvillain. Let's talk. So, I'll be seeing y'all in the comments. And I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, check out my channel because I'll be back again soon with more reactions.